PR's Top Pros Talk, navigating the changing communications landscape, featuring Dan Simon, CEO and co-founder of Quoted. And here's your host, Doug Simon.
What is Quoted?
So Quoted is a network that connects media on the one side. Media can be reporters, can be producers, bookers for TV shows, writers, freelancers, with, on the other side, brands, experts, PR agencies, and small businesses.
Marketing tech have really been ahead of PR tech. What was your inspiration for starting Quoted?
Well, I think you hit it on the head there, Doug. It's that while we've seen technology transforming every industry, particularly network technology, it is, whether it's in your personal life or your professional life, you probably interact with several network technologies every day. And then meanwhile, my industry, which I love and have grown up in, which is communications, public relations, media relations, seemed very stuck in the 90s. Seemed very opaque, seemed like very heavy on the human side, and seemed ripe for transformation. And so what we've tried to do with Quoted is bring some of that network technology to this rather antiquated industry, and with it, be able to create efficiencies, cost saving, and then also create a lot of data and a lot of insight that our users can benefit from.
Yeah, and I think we can also look at sort of maybe outdated slice of the industry, because as you've mentioned, there are many parts of the industry that are more advanced using technology, data analysis. So what are some of the ways that technology is going to be changing public relations over the next couple of years?
Quoted is just a piece of this tech revolution. Right. If you think about what public relations is, which is about listening to the market, understanding what stories to tell, uncovering audiences and understanding where those audiences are getting their information, how to reach them. We're seeing technology transform every piece of that ecosystem. Investment is going into natural language processing and AI-driven content creation, and then distribution channels are changing. So the old-fashioned press releases, that's now transforming. How do you get information to audiences? So I think every aspect of the communications industry is going to see a tech transformation. And unlike, as you said, unlike marketing, MarTech and ad tech, which in many ways have had 10 or 15 or 20 years in some cases to run, Comtech, PR tech is really in its infancy, and we're going to see it really coming to the fore over the next few years.
Yeah, well, you're definitely starting out early. One thing that's really interesting that I've found out about it is you're actually able to gain some insights in terms of what reporters actually want based on being able to analyze what you're seeing. What are you seeing when it comes to what reporters want?
I mean, all networks essentially are based on persistent data. And that's part of our proposition about why we wanted to bring network transformation, not just for the obvious reasons like it'll make things cheaper when, networks happen, price of things goes down. Right. But also because of data, like PR is, aside from anything else, a very opaque industry. When everything's done with intermediaries over the phone, there's no record of anything. There's no persistence of any data. It's all ephemeral. It disappears. And so we have no idea about what Brand X said last week or how things are evolving. And if you think in the world of, say, and that's massively inefficient as well as anything else. Like if you think about the reason that you were able to get an Uber to where you're standing is because of the persistence of data. It doesn't ask you to register every time. It just remembers who you are, and then it uses geolocation and it remembers your credit card details. And so there's a vast amount of persistent data in networks. Same with Seamless and Instacart and a bunch of other things, right? It remembers what you've ordered before. Amazon knows what you've ordered before. It puts things on subscription. So when you move to a network technology, you don't just get efficiency and cost saving. You also get a vast amount of data and a lot of transparency of data. And so, we were able to codify what media responds to. And we know that because we can see what they respond to quickest, right?
Yeah, and to that end, on that point, that also gives you some insight into what makes an effective PR professional when it comes to media outreach. What are you seeing there? I know that's something our audience is very, very interested in finding out. What can they do to improve, say, their hit rate, their success rate of their media pitches?
What our data has showed us is that it's all the things that your PR agency told you were important. It's not anything new. Speed is massively important. What we're finding is the media will take, if there's a tier one spokesperson they'd love to hear from, and then tier two and tier three, they will take a tier two if it's quicker than a tier one. So that is to say, they won't wait for the Bank of America expert. If the M&T Bank or Key Bank expert will get back to them within half an hour, or maybe to use a different industry. They'd love to hear from the CEO of Coca-Cola, but they'll hear from the CEO of A&W if that one is quicker within sort of 30 minutes to an hour. So speed is still probably more important than it ever was. Then you get to things like the amount of data, the amount of thinking you can do on behalf of the reporter. So what we've done in Psych-Quoted is we enable you to stand up expert profiles, and we enable you to enrich those expert profiles with downloadable headshots, example quotes that they've given to the media in the past, places they showed up, links to other media coverage, their social feeds, and we put that all into one place. So if you can come in with a very filled out expert profile very quickly, you're giving that media the opportunity to vet that person. They're looking at the pitch, they're looking at the information, then they're clicking into the expert profile. They're saying, oh, look, they were featured in this magazine, that magazine, that magazine. They're online. I can watch their video from that. Oh, they seem very articulate. Great. It's a no-brainer. You're making it very, very easy for me. So don't put barriers in between you and the pitch. Give the media what they need. Give it to them quickly. We actually launched a page called the Quoted 100, which is where we celebrate the 100 best performing PRs and experts inside our platform. It's real live data, so it recalibrates every quarter and say these are the top 100 people inside the platform, and it's based on a set of data that we know matter to the media. So how quickly can you get back to the reporters? How quickly do reporters pitch you or get back to you? How often what's your hit rate, your conversion rate? So if you pitch 10 times, how many of those generate conversations with media? These are the inputs, and the top 100 performers across those inputs get a badge inside our platform saying they're a Quoted 100 member.
We recently did a survey of TV broadcasters, local TV news, asked them how they cover health stories. Surprisingly, the number one way, 83%, were taking satellite or Zoom, even more than the number of stations that are sending a crew and reporter out. So it is changing so much. So obviously the media is changing. What's your take on how all of this is going to change and affect the communications industry as we wrap up this conversation?
I think a lot of this all stems to that fragmentation in the media that we talked about. The media the media landscape is changing very, very rapidly. Micro communities are coming up, so the big guys are kind of fragmented. As a comms person or as a brand, where your audience appears or what they're reading, what your core audience is reading, has changed. It's changing. It's a mix. It's not that the big guys or the TV has gone away. It's just someone once said to me that media are like archaeological strata, and I think about that. Every time a new media comes out, they always said like the end of radio. It's the end of. Actually, no, that's not true. Actually, all those things kind of just pile on top of one another. So you've got podcasts and videocasts and YouTube and local TV and national TV and the New York Times and CNN and the Skim or some sort of newsletter. So that the first big transformation is happening inside the media itself. And I think if you're a brand or an expert or a PR person, you just have to think about that fragmenting universe. I think that's going to change the technologies and the tools and the agencies that brands are using to reach those different audiences via that transforming landscape.
Yeah, and Dan, thanks so much for representing the Simon brand so well in this conversation. I'm guessing a year from now we'll be here talking about how to get your story out in the metaverse. Thanks so much for sharing your time with us.
Thank you for having me.